Get the unmissable news stories of the day.
This is the Beijing Hour.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host,
Shane Bigham with you on this Thursday, May 28th, 2026. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, coming to you live from the Chinese capital. On today's program, China's helped launch a global initiative for poverty alleviation, along with 53 other countries and 9 international organizations. China's urging Japan to remember history and proceed with caution as Tokyo unveils plans for a National Intelligence Council. The U.S. president now says Iran will not receive sanctions relief for giving up stockpiles of enriched uranium. In business, commerce and economy ministers from China and Germany have held talks in Beijing. In sports, one Chinese women's singles player remains at the French Open. In culture and entertainment, gaming platforms are emerging as the new hub for social media. Now the day's top stories. China, together with 53 other countries and 9 international organizations, has initiated a global partnership for poverty alleviation and development. The participants launched it at the Global Poverty Reduction and Development Forum in Beijing. The partnership will explore pathways to eradicate poverty at its roots. Mozambique's Minister of Planning and Development was at the forum. Salim Ismail Vala says cooperation with China is helping Mozambique improve productivity and strengthen technical capacity through projects such as the Africa Bridge Initiative.
This
Africa Bridge program is an ongoing program in partnership with the Chinese government in the area of agricultural development in Mozambique, and several actions are being carried out. Technical assistance, extension, research, support, and access to improved technologies. This will allow for increased productivity in agriculture, in the main crops, particularly cereals, vegetables, and tubers, with great support from China's experience in modernizing agriculture, including extension, mechanization, and agricultural irrigation, which are some of the challenges we have today to increase production, increase productivity, and allow small producers to have higher incomes by developing agriculture.
The minister said infrastructure replacement and improved production capacity can be an important catalyst, enabling training, technical assistance, and more. He said these developments can also help small businesses and industries by increasing their income and generating more jobs. A British scholar says China's poverty alleviation should be viewed as part of a broader and evolving development process. Professor Robert Walker at the University of Oxford believes many Western discussions often overlook the changing nature of poverty and China's broader goal of achieving common prosperity. Huang Yue spoke to him about the misconceptions.
The Financial Times article reignited debate online on whether China has truly ended poverty, and you wrote an article in response to that. From your perspective, what's the biggest misunderstanding in some Western discussions about China's poverty alleviation?
I don't think they believe, and therefore they don't look to find positively. You can always find an example and partially tell the story. And then there's the language of poverty. Nobody opposes the eradication of poverty, but you can never truly eradicate poverty because poverty changes. We have one definition of poverty, absolute, which is about whether I have enough resources to live from today until tomorrow. You can eradicate that poverty. China eradicated a version of that poverty in rural China. And that's what we're celebrating 5 years on. And it's true, it was a real achievement.
Some critics are arguing that China's poverty line is too low by international standards. What's your take on this?
You know, I've argued all the time that poverty is a process, it's dynamic. It's experienced dynamically. I wasn't poor last week, I am now, I won't be next. It's the same in a global sense. China has developed enormously since opening up. You know, that journey is an incredible journey. China has moved to become a country, an upper middle country, knocking on the door of becoming a high income country. So going back to your Financial Times, the journalist picked up the World Bank's definition for upper middle income countries, which I think is $8.30 a day, and said China is not addressing that. And what I was able to show was that China did address that, although it didn't do so explicitly. It never mentioned that it was doing that, but it focused on sustainable growth. And as economic growth rose, so living standards rose. So wherever you pinch that threshold, people will be lifted above it, which is what China was doing. But if you focus on what China has measured and eradicated, then yes, poverty is too low for the China of today. China recognises that, but perhaps the story that it wants to tell could be more nuanced than the story that it actually tells.
That was Oxford professor Robert Walker with his take on understanding poverty alleviation in China. Imagine relocating almost the entire population of Sweden because the land could no longer sustain its people. That's effectively what China did. In its fight against poverty, the government moved 9.6 million rural residents into new settlements that provided better prospects. One of the most striking chapters of this campaign unfolded over 3 decades in Ningxia Autonomous Region. Chen Mengfei traveled to the northwestern area to see what's changed for the people in their new homes and for the land that they left behind.
Xihaigu was a name synonymous with poverty. These mountains, magnificent as they are, were once called unfit for human life by the United Nations. The government made a bold decision: move the residents out to 400 kilometers up north, where the land is flat and the capital Incheon is nearby. There was just one problem: it was a desert.
When we first came, it looked exactly like this.
When Liu Zuoxin was posted here as an official in 1994, he endured the harsh conditions alongside the earliest settlers.
When the wind came, sand was everywhere. People would go to sleep and wake up next morning, have their door half buried in sand.
In the beginning, life here was even harder than back home. People lived off the flour and potatoes they brought. Some gave up and went back, but more stayed.
They counted on the Yellow River, the water from there. At least they no longer had to rely on rain anymore. That's the dream they carried when they came.
30 kilometers east is the Yellow River, the cradle of Chinese civilization. The government built irrigation channels, and from this sandy soil emerged an industry no one had expected: wine. Northern Ningxia sits on the same latitude as Bordeaux and California. Thriving vineyards created jobs that changed the lives of migrants like Liu Li.
Back home, I grew potatoes and corn. Now I make wine. I never could have dreamed of this.
Liu now has a certificate in winemaking, and bottles are winning awards in Europe. When I asked her what life might have been had she never left, the focus was on her children.
If we'd stayed in the village, by now they'd have quit school and doing odd jobs. My daughter would definitely be washing dishes. My son would be working at some barbecue joint.
In reality, her daughter has a bachelor's degree in enology and now works at the same winery. Her son is studying in college to become a doctor. The new settlement isn't the only place transformed. Back in Xihaigu, we visited the villages residents of Mining left behind. The land that used to grow potatoes are now growing trees.
These are spruce trees, all spruce now. They're well suited to this land.
Vegetable farming and tourism have now become pillars of the local economy.
If you come back in 5 years, Shiji will become another surprise. I was reluctant to say I'm from Xihaigu. Now when people ask where you're from, I immediately go, Xihaigu.
Your hometown has been redefined.
Yes.
That was a story on repurposing land and changing lives. Coming up, China issues a warning over Japan's plans for a National Intelligence Council.
China's securities regulator has launched a major crackdown on illegal cross-border securities activities, targeting online brokerages operating outside the country's regulatory framework. Why is Beijing acting now? What risks are regulators trying to contain? And does this signal a new era of stronger oversight in China's financial markets? This week on the Chat Lounge, we unpack the motives, market impact, and broader implications of China's latest regulatory move. Listen wherever you get your podcasts and on CGTN Radio.
It's 10 minutes past the hour. China is urging policymakers in Japan to learn from history and act with caution after Tokyo enacted a law to establish a National Intelligence Council. China's foreign ministry said historically, intelligence agencies in Japan have paved the road for militarism and aggression. Meanwhile, protesters have gathered outside Japan's parliament. They warned that the Intelligence Council could expand state surveillance and suppress anti-war voices.
Before Japan launched its war of aggression, things also developed in this way. Laws such as the Peace Preservation Law before World War II opened the door to an even darker era. I think this new intelligence system is the same. If measures like this keep moving forward, Japan may once again head toward war in the near future.
I believe this is the first step toward war. First, it will silence voices opposing war. When people are forced to keep quiet and no one dares to say no to war, then no one will oppose policies such as missile deployments. Society will gradually become like it was during World War II, treating people as resources and sending them to other countries to kill.
Japanese Communist Party Chair Tomoko Tamura says public concerns over the government's approach to war are not imaginary. Under the new law, the Prime Minister will chair the council, and it'll include key cabinet members. A National Intelligence Bureau will serve as its operational arm, coordinating intelligence work across government ministries and agencies. Local media say the new bodies could be set up as early as July. Japanese scholars are raising concerns over Japan's new intelligence structure, warning it could harm civil liberties and affect the region.
Japan may already be monitoring people it regards as enemies or those who criticize the police and the government. But if such work is integrated under a National Intelligence Bureau, that organization could be used to collect intelligence on groups critical of government policy. In that sense, people's privacy rights and other civil liberties could be violated.
Japan is also sharply increasing its defense spending. That raises questions about what impact it will have on regional security. I think Japan should not only consider its own interests, it should act on the premise of maintaining regional stability and stability in East Asia.
Professors at Japanese universities urge the government to act on the premise of maintaining stability regionally and across East Asia. A seminar marking 80 years since the beginning of the Tokyo trials has taken place in Shanghai. Experts from countries including China, Japan, South Korea, and Russia were in attendance. The Tokyo trials convened on May 3rd of 1946, almost a year after Japan announced its unconditional surrender in World War II. In the following 2.5 years, the tribunal, consisting of judges from 11 countries, revealed and addressed Japan's historical war crimes committed during its fascist expansion, based on substantial historical documents and testimonies. The trials exposed Japan's inhuman and anti-civilization war crimes such as the Nanjing Massacre and the Bataan Death March. All 25 defendants were found guilty, 7 were sentenced to death by hanging. China's Shenzhou 21 and Shenzhou 23 astronaut crews have completed a handover ceremony in the country's space station. The China Manned Space Agency says the Shenzhou 21 crew has completed all planned tasks and will return to Earth in the coming days. The astronauts will land at the Dongfeng site in northern China. Ground recovery teams have completed training exercises ahead of the return mission, including all-terrain search and rescue operations. Chen Long with the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center says teams have been preparing for a range of emergency scenarios.
We have carried out more than a month of training focused on high-altitude rope descent and return capsule handling. We've also strengthened training for possible landings in deserts, salt flats, and water areas, so we can respond quickly once we reach the target area.
And final preparations are now underway across all participating systems and landing teams. The China CEEC local leaders meeting in eastern China has drawn key guests from Central and Eastern European countries, including former Romanian Prime Minister Viorica Dăncilă. Cao Chu-feng sat down with her in Jinan to discuss the resilience of China-Romania ties and why she believes cooperation with China matters.
You personally have held very important roles over the years in promoting the relationship between China and Romania, first as the Prime Minister and now as the President of Romanian Chinese House. What is the reason behind your personal commitment to building this relationship?
A first consideration is related to the fact that I have always been involved in relations with China. I was the Prime Minister and I had a close relationship with China. I have participated in the 16+1 format, which made my main activity permanently related to China. Let's not forget that there has been a friendship between China and Romania for over 75 years. I can say that I grew up with Chinese Jackie Chan movies, and in China there were a lot of Romanian movies.
The trade between China and Central and Eastern European countries, including Romania, has seen some strong growth in recent years. What do you think has kept this connection resilient despite some challenges between Beijing and Brussels?
I believe that we must start from the existing reality. China is not only a very big economic power, but China is also a very important global player at the moment. And when decisions are made in Brussels, they must take this into account, because a very good relationship with China would bring great benefits. We see that Brussels decides that there should be certain divergent opinions with China, but at the same time, leaders of European Union member states visit China, and they want to have the best possible relations with China.
What would you say is one of the most successful areas of cooperation between China and Romania?
I think there are many elements in this regard. When I was the Prime Minister of Romania, the period was marked for having some of the best relations with China. The fact that at that time, ties were very strong at the institutional and governmental levels brought development to Romania. President Xi Jinping said, "Friendship must remain in people's hearts." I took this into account, and I tried to make connections between the Romanian and Chinese people.
That was former Romanian Prime Minister Viorica Dăncilă on efforts to promote people-to-people ties. Munich Airport is rolling out Chinese assistance services. The services not only break down language barriers, but also help bridge cultural differences for Chinese travelers. Natalie Carney reports.
The Terminal 1 expansion has brought more shops, restaurants, and international passengers. But for some Chinese travelers, navigating a busy international terminal in a foreign language can be daunting.
Most important question is where is the gate and where is the restroom. She feels very happy when she meets someone who speaks Mandarin, especially for passengers who speak neither English nor German. This is a very good service for people who has problem with communication.
Michael is one of 8 Chinese-speaking assistants helping passengers find gates, shops, and services while moving through the airport under time pressure.
She said that she's very satisfied for our airport service. Someone came to ask her, does she need any help? And she's very satisfied with our services.
As Germany's second busiest airport, Munich has seen a rebound in flights connecting Europe with China and the wider Asia-Pacific region since the COVID-19 pandemic, with passenger traffic to Asia rising nearly 39% in 2024. Cathay Pacific launched 4 weekly flights between Hong Kong and Munich last year, further strengthening the airport's role as a major European hub for Asian-bound travel.
We have an increase of Chinese passengers in Terminal 1. So, of course, the main focus is the language barrier. So our assistants try to overcome those barriers and support staff in the shops. But, of course, the service goes beyond. So if it's sometimes carrying a bag or telling them where to go, where to find a gate, or it's customs service or also tax refund process. So they are delighted to help with any problems the customers may have.
The assistants also help bridge cultural differences between travelers and airport staff.
We are here as a Chinese shopping assistant to serve as a translator, to serve as a culture bridge. For example, most of their co-workers from the duty-free shop, in general, they hand their receipt or their change in one hand, but in Asian country, they try to do that with 2 hands. And when you hand with 2 hands, is a kind of politeness for the Asian customers.
With both Chinese and German carriers increasing passenger flights between the two countries, providing Chinese passengers with a more relaxed experience shows just how important Chinese tourism is becoming once again across Europe.
That was Natalie Carney in Munich. Coming up, Washington says Iran will not receive sanctions relief for giving up stockpiles of enriched uranium.
Discover the realities and responses to our changing climate with Climate Watch. Uncover critical issues such as the Masai Mara's disrupted wildebeest migration and the drop in the Panama Canal's water levels. Delve into solutions for a sustainable future. Tune in to Climate Watch on your favorite podcast platform. Become more eco-conscious and take action to protect our planet.
At 21 past the hour, U.S. President Donald Trump says Iran will not receive sanctions relief in exchange for giving up its stockpile of highly enriched uranium. The Treasury Department is targeting the Persian Gulf Strait Authority that oversees shipping control in the Strait of Hormuz in a fresh sanctions move. Trump said he's not satisfied with Iran's offer, adding that he'll not rush into a deal despite pressure from the midterm elections. Walter Morris has more.
U.S. President Donald Trump says that under any deal between the United States and Iran, the Strait of Hormuz will be open to everyone and not controlled by any country. Trump is also pushing back on speculation that growing political pressure is driving him to end the war quickly. Wednesday, Trump met with his top advisors and most senior administration officials at the White House. The cabinet meeting was originally scheduled to take place at the Camp David presidential retreat. Early on in the meeting, Trump downplayed escalating tensions over the Strait of Hormuz. He also repeated many of his previous claims about the status of the conflict and negotiations. Trump told reporters that Iran wants to make a deal, but he isn't satisfied yet. And he made it clear that the U.S. isn't considering lifting sanctions. Under the potential agreement with Tehran, the Strait of Hormuz would reopen immediately, Iran would allow commercial shipping to return to pre-war levels, and the United States would lift the naval blockade and withdraw military forces. About 20% of the world's oil and liquefied natural gas travels through the strait. It's been closed since the war began in February, leading to a global energy crisis. And at the White House Wednesday, Trump told reporters that he isn't in a rush to make a deal to end the war.
They're negotiating on fumes. But we'll see what happens. Maybe we have to go back and finish it. But right now, I think it looks like they want to just make a deal. They want to. I don't think they have a choice. They're just going back to the internet because they're getting clobbered. Their economy is in free fall. They have 250% inflation. Their money has no value. Their whole economic system is broken down. They thought they were going to outweight me, we'll outweight him. He's got the midterms. I don't care about the midterms.
That was a report from Washington about negotiations to end the war in Iran. The White House says an Iranian media report claiming the U.S. and Iran have reached an initial framework for a peace deal is a complete fabrication. White House spokesperson Olivia Wales says negotiations are still proceeding, but President Donald Trump has made his bottom line clear. Iranian TV reported that Tehran had drafted an unofficial framework with Washington, demanding a U.S. military withdrawal and the lifting of a naval blockade. The report said Iran will restore commercial shipping through the Strait of Hormuz to pre-war levels within a month, with Oman helping to manage shipping. The impact of the Middle East conflict is evident even in the heart of South America. Brazil's cattle country is famous for its vast ranches and beef production, but rising global fuel and fertilizer prices linked to geopolitical tensions are putting pressure on local producers. Lei Xiangping reports.
Brazil is one of the world's agricultural powerhouses, but it relies heavily on imported essentials such as diesel and fertilizer. Ongoing tensions in the Middle East have pushed those costs higher, creating new challenges for the country's livestock industry. In Barra do Bugres district, Rancho Harry Pichade runs a major cattle operation with 14,000 head of cattle. Normally, he sends around 9,000 to slaughterhouses each year, but now expansion plans are on hold.
The price hikes are huge. The nitrogen fertilizer we use for our pastures has jumped by 50 to 100%. On top of that, our feed supplier is 200 kilometers away, and the shipping ports are over 2,000 kilometers from here. Fuel price increases hit us the hardest. We manage 5,000 hectares of pasture, and right now the entire industry is in crisis. For the next next year or two, we are just going to hold steady or stop expanding.
His experience reflects a wider challenge across Mato Grosso, a region known for its ideal grazing conditions, but also for its geographic disadvantages. Vandesi Francisco Pinto Jr., an analyst at the Mato Grosso Meat Institute, says transportation has always been expensive for this landlocked region, and the Middle East crisis is making it worse.
Já é muito pressionado. The pressure on us was already immense, and the crisis in the Middle East is just pushing export costs even higher. Logistics alone eat up more than half of the total cost of exporting beef. These heavy expenses mean we have very little buffer when market prices fluctuate.
Disrupted shipping routes and rising marine insurance costs are also adding pressure. Brazil's beef exports to the Middle East declined for 2 straight months earlier this year. Vandesi says some exporters are shifting sales toward Asian markets, but the strain on the supply chain remains significant.
The Middle East buys over 13% of our state's beef. Now running costs are through the roof. Shipping a single refrigerated container can cost up to $7,000, which destroys our competitiveness. If this goes on, meat packers will buy fewer cattle and push down purchase prices, which will ultimately hurt the ranchers themselves.
From rising production costs to mounting logistical challenges, Mato Grosso shows how a conflict on one side of the world can reshape livelihoods on the other. For the Beijing Hour, this is Lei Champing in Mato Grosso, Brazil.
Cuba's parliament is seeking international support amid fears of possible U.S. military action against the island. The National Assembly's Ana Maria Machado says they've sent letters to several international parliamentary groups, including the Non-Aligned Movement and the Latin American and Caribbean Parliament.
Cuba is willing to engage in dialogue with the United States on the basis of respect for our sovereignty, our political system, our self-determination, and the principles of international law, and to maintain a civilized and neighborly relationship with that country, regardless of our differences.
The letter warns that any attack on Cuba could destabilize the wider region. Our regional foreign ministers meeting in Suriname have also criticized U.S. threats against Cuba as tensions continue to rise between Havana and Washington. Thursday marks World Hunger Day. It raises awareness of starvation and malnutrition affecting millions worldwide. As key members of the developing world, China and Africa have long worked side by side to strengthen food security through agricultural cooperation. The two sides are stepping up exchanges in agricultural techniques and expertise. Since the 2024 Beijing summit of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, China sent over 200 agricultural experts to countries including Madagascar, Eritrea, and Burundi. It's also built 24 agricultural technology demonstration centers across Africa, carried out over 100 agricultural assistance projects, and trained more than 50,000 local professionals. The two sides are also expanding platforms for long-term agricultural partnerships. In 2024, China and Africa jointly established an alliance for agricultural science and technology innovation. Various labs and research centers for bamboo cultivation, water conservation, and pest control have also been set up. We're at 29 past the hour. Beijing will be clear overnight, sunny tomorrow, a low of 16 and the highs 32 on Friday. Shanghai will be cloudy through tomorrow with a low of 22 and a high of 29. Chongqing has a light rainfall in the forecast tonight and tomorrow, a low of 22 and a high of 27. Nanchang's cloudy through the day, or the night and the day, a low of 25, the high is 30. Lhasa will see a light rainfall tonight and tomorrow, or cloudy tomorrow with a low of 5 and a high of 20. Elsewhere in Asia, Islamabad's cloudy with 24 for a low, 38 for a high on Friday. Vientiane will see moderate rainfall tonight and tomorrow, a low of 25 and a high of 35. It's time for a short break. So far this hour, China has helped launch a global initiative for poverty alleviation along with 53 other countries and 9 international organizations. China is urging Japan to remember history and proceed with caution as Tokyo unveils plans for a National Intelligence Council. And the U.S. president now says Iran will not receive sanctions relief for giving up its stockpiles of enriched uranium. Shane Bigham with you. Stay with us here on the Beijing Hour.
From the refreshing cup of tea that starts your morning to the paper that you write on, the roots of many familiar parts of modern life can be traced back to ancient ideas. Join us on Made in Ancient China and discover how ideas born millennia ago became some of the world's greatest treasures. Made in Ancient China brings you stories of human ambition, inspiration, and connection. Now available on all major podcast platforms.
Shh, listen up. Can you hear the heartbeat of our world? It's vibrant and pulsating with the essence of life itself. From the stem of trees to the gurgle of rivers. From the silent strength of mountains to the icy whispers of glaciers. Even the solid ground beneath our feet. And right there, in the midst of all, beats the heart of humanity. What if those other heartbeats were to stop? Would ours keep on ticking?
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Bigham with you on this Thursday. Still to come. In business, commerce and economy ministers from China and Germany have held talks in Beijing. In sports, one Chinese women's singles player remains at the French Open. In culture and entertainment, gaming platforms are emerging as the new hub for social media. To contact us, you can email radio@cgtn.com or follow our X account @CGTNradio. Now at the check of the day's headlines, though, here's Tianmo.
Thank you, Shane. Chinese President Xi Jinping has replied to students who participated in a shared voyage China-US Youth Friendship Program. President Xi said since November 2023, more than 50,000 young Americans have visited China, achieving Beijing's target 2.5 years ahead of schedule. The president stressed that young people are the most vibrant and visionary group representing the future and hope of China-US relations. He expressed a hope for more young Chinese and Americans to uphold the two countries' friendship, learn from each other, progress together, and contribute to the stable, healthy, and sustainable development of China-US relations. Government officials from around the world are attending the Global Poverty Reduction and Development Forum in Beijing, hoping to gain a better understanding of China's experience. Mustain Billah from the Bangladeshi Chief Advisor's Office says efforts don't stop at lifting people out of poverty.
The focus that China have in poverty alleviation especially is targeted approach, and not only just poverty alleviation, sustaining and expanding on the experiences across the region is very important and very meaningful for countries like Bangladesh in the global south. We need to learn, we need to understand how they are doing things.
The senior consultant added that China's success is important to address issues such as infrastructure development and modernization. Hamas has confirmed that its newly appointed commander-in-chief of the Al-Qassam Brigades, the group's armed wing, was killed in an Israeli airstrike on Tuesday. Mohammed Odeh had been involved in Hamas military operations for more than 30 years and played a key role in planning and developing its armed activities. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz earlier said Odeh, described as Hamas's fourth-ranking official, had been killed, adding that Israel would ensure Hamas has no military or civilian control over Gaza. Hamas condemned the attack, calling it a violation of international law. Odeh had only been appointed to the role about a week ago after his predecessor was killed in a previous strike in May. The World Health Organization is stepping up efforts to contain an Ebola outbreak in Bunia in the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo. WHO teams are working to complete a treatment center for patients with suspected or confirmed Ebola infections, while also training young volunteers to help set up emergency medical tents. WHO Incident Manager Dr. Richard Fortsing says the center will begin receiving patients soon.
We're currently at the site of the Ebola Treatment Center that the WHO is preparing and rehabilitating so that it can receive patients in the coming days.
The The WHO is also delivering supplies, deploying experts, and expanding laboratory testing capacity in the region. Officials say additional semi-temporary facilities may be built if more patient beds are needed. Community outreach teams are also reassuring locals and encouraging public cooperation with response efforts. American authorities have confirmed a second death after a chemical tank collapsed at a paper mill in Washington state, with 9 others presumed dead. The incident in Longview involved a large storage tank containing white liquor, a corrosive chemical used in pulp and paper production, which ruptured at a facility operated by Nippon Dynawave Packaging. Local officials say the release of chemicals has made the recovery efforts slow and hazardous, with responders warning that operations will be slow, methodical, and deliberate due to structural instability and exposure risks. Authorities say any recovered victims will undergo decontamination before identification. Washington Governor Bob Ferguson says the state is facing a major industrial disaster.
We're bracing ourselves for this being the deadliest industrial tragedy in modern Washington state history. When you have a tragedy of that scale, the impacts on individuals, on families, and on communities is profound. I want to extend my deepest condolences to those who have been directly impacted by the loss of a loved one during this extraordinarily challenging time.
A federal investigation into the cause of the explosion is underway.
All right, thank you very much. That's Tian Li with headlines. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in business, commerce and economy ministers from China and Germany have held talks in Beijing.
The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
37 past the hour. Stock markets on the Chinese mainland closed higher on Thursday. The Shanghai Composite was up more than 0.1%. The Shenzhen Component gained 0.8%. Sports and non-metal material shares were among the top gainers. In Hong Kong, the Hang Seng Index declined almost 1.3%. Japan's Nikkei dropped nearly 0.5%. Chinese Commerce Minister Wang Wentao has held talks with German Economy and Energy Minister Katharina Reiche. The talks focused on China-Germany and China-Europe economic and trade relations. Wang brought up German Chancellor Friedrich Merz's visit to China in February, noting that during the trip, leaders from both sides agreed on strengthening strategic communication and upholding openness and cooperation. He also said China's development priorities during the 15th five-year plan period are highly aligned with Germany's Industry 4.0 strategy and low-carbon transition goals. The German minister said China is Germany's largest trading partner and also one of the country's most important sources of foreign investment. A German government supports free trade and opposes decoupling and supply chain disruption. Reiche added that Germany is willing to strengthen policy communication with China and build a rules-based economic and trade relationship that's stable, reliable, and future-oriented. A survey by the German Chamber of Commerce in China shows German companies in the country have become more optimistic about economic development and plan to increase their investments. The survey of over 200 German firms shows that 37% of respondents predict an improvement in the Chinese economy over the next 6 months, a jump of 22 points from last year. Almost 2/3 of respondents plan to scale up their investments in China over the next 2 years, representing an increase of 8 points compared to the previous year. And for more on China-Germany economic relations, Michael Wang spoke with Wang Le, a researcher at East China Normal University's Center for European Studies.
Following a series of German cabinet visits to China over the past 6 months, where do you see the most promising avenues for deepening bilateral cooperation?
So the frequent high-level exchanges demonstrate that both sides attach great importance to maintaining strategic communication and practical cooperation. As the world's second and largest economies in terms of manufacturing strength, China and Germany have strong economic complementarity. First, green transition and renewable energy will be one of the most promising areas. Germany has advanced technology and experience in energy efficiency, environmental standards, and green manufacturing, while China has strong capabilities in renewable energy production, electronic vehicles, battery technology, and large-scale industrial application. Cooperation in sustainable industrial transformation could bring substantial economic benefits. Second, the digital economy and advanced manufacturing offers strategic potential. Closer cooperation in industrial digitalization, AI application, robotics, and supply chain modernization could help both countries remain globally competitive. Third, there is room to deepen cooperation in scientific research, education, and talent exchange. Joint research projects, university cooperation, and technological innovation platforms could strengthen long-term competitivity for both sides. So we say future China-Germany cooperation is likely to become more innovation-driven, green-oriented, and also strategically focused.
The German Economy and Energy Minister Katharina Reiche is here in China. The German Chamber of Commerce here in China put out a survey asking German companies operating in the country what specific measures do they think the German government should take to better support and promote German businesses here in China. And the top answer from German firms was to create a supporting framework for partnerships between German and Chinese companies. What's your take on this top response from German companies here in China?
The response from German companies in China reflects a pragmatic and also business-oriented perspective on China-Germany economic relations. First, the response highlights the strong economic interdependence between the two countries. For many German countries and also companies, China is not only a production base, but also a key consumer market and also an innovation hub. So German businesses are looking for stable and predictable conditions that allow them to continue operating and investing in China with confidence. Second, the survey results suggest that German companies prefer engagement over confrontation. Many companies are emphasizing cooperation, partnership building, and market access. Governments can help create a more stable environment for long-term business cooperation.
That was researcher Wang Lo with East China Normal University talking about China-Germany economic cooperation. The China-Lao Railway has handled over 73.3 million passenger trips since opening in December 2021, including more than 840,000 cross-border journeys. According to China Railway Kunming Group, as of Wednesday, passenger trains on the line made over 100,000 trips. Monthly trips on the whole line have risen from about 600,000 in the early stage of operation to a peak of nearly 2.3 million. Cross-border passenger services have become a major driver of the railway's growth. And since April 2023, international passenger trains have been operating in both directions between Kunming South Station and Vientiane, providing a more convenient option for travel and tourism between the two countries. The route now operates 4 international passenger trains daily, with the fastest journey taking 9 hours and 36 minutes. SAIC Motors become the first Chinese car maker to surpass 100 million cumulative vehicle sales in production. It's a milestone for the country's auto industry as it expands its global footprint and accelerates a push into electric vehicles. The company marked the occasion in Shanghai by delivering its 100 millionth vehicle, an IM-LS9 Hyper extended range SUV, to its client. SAIC says 100 million is not just a numerical milestone, but also represents the trust of its users. The company also says it's accelerating its global expansion, evolving from product export to value chain output. Over the past 70 years, SAIC, together with many Chinese automakers, has promoted China's automotive industry from scratch to scale, and from following and learning to leading through innovation. The two-way integration of artificial intelligence and electricity supply is among 51 high-value future scenarios that China's National Energy Administration's identified as part of efforts to boost AI usage in the energy sector. Computing centers and power grids in the country are already demonstrating smarter ways of operating. This is an AI-generated report.
Electricity bills account for more than half of the operating costs at an intelligent computing center in Shenzhen. To meet the growing demand, operators are purchasing large amounts of green electricity from regions rich in renewable energy, including solar and wind.
Currently, we have purchased about 50 million kilowatt hours of green electricity from Guangxi and Yunnan provinces, and that number is increasing. We aim to have all new projects fully powered by imported green electricity by the end of this year.
The 50 million kilowatt-hour deal marked the country's first point-to-point cross-provincial green electricity transaction. Real-time monitoring screens show electricity generated in Guangxi and Yan'an flowing through west-to-east transmission lines before reaching data center hubs across the Greater Bay Area. And the support system works both ways. AI is increasingly being used to help allocate electricity resources. Southern China entered its peak electricity season about a month earlier than usual this year, putting pressure on the grid to meet demand. But AI is helping operators stay ahead of the strain. China's first virtual power plant in Shenzhen, connecting a network of charging stations and energy storage facilities, is using AI to coordinate electricity supply.
During peak hours, AI can quickly identify heavily loaded or overloaded transmission lines for us to act accordingly. Residents may not even notice what's happening, and they don't need to change their electricity use habits.
AI helps the virtual power plant respond by predicting peak demand and directing new energy vehicles and battery systems to charge during off-peak hours, and by pre-cooling air conditioners.
That was a report on the integration of artificial intelligence and electricity supply. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in sports, one Chinese women's singles player remains at the French Open.
Sideline Story brings you all things sports related. The hottest topics, latest events, juiciest stories, all with a very personal take. Subscribe to Sideline Story Podcast for heated sports discussions covering events that are happening in China and around the world.
Sports now. Here's Yang Guang.
Thank you, Shane. In tennis from the French Open, China's Wang Qiyu has advanced to the third round for the first time in her career. It came after opponent Hailey Baptiste retired injured just 51 minutes into their match. Wang will next take on Yulia Starodubtseva. She's now the last Chinese player left in women's singles draw in Paris. Starodubtseva reached the third round for the second straight year after knocking out Elena Rybakina in 3 sets. Ranked 55th, she fought back from 3 love down in the decider and won the tiebreaker 10-4. It's her first top 10 win.
I feel like if you are trying to be one of the best, you have to think that you can beat the best. So I was trying to go into this match with this mindset and, try not to give too much respect, even though she's a great player and someone you can look up to. She's obviously number 2 in the world, but I feel like, again, if you're trying to be one of those players, you need to start and, believe you can beat them.
Meanwhile, China's Wang Xingyu lost in the second round, falling to Tamara Korpach in 3 sets. Wang committed 65 unforced errors. Her French Open journey will continue as she is already in the second round of the women's doubles events. Karolina Muchova and Sorana Costilla have secured straight set victories to reach the third round. 2024 finalist Jasmine Paolini was knocked out in a major second round upset. Novak Djokovic has reached the third round of the French Open, but not without a scare. The Serbian star won the first 2 sets easily against local hope Valentin Royer. Royer fought back to take the third set in a tiebreak. Djokovic regained control to win the fourth.
Very, very tough match. I think he was playing on a high level. He was pumped. You could see it from the first point, really with clear intentions, what he needs to do tactically. He's a fighter. I mean, I never faced him before, but I saw some of the matches he has played. He's a great fighter, competes well. So just a very good win for me.
Second-seeded Alexander Zverev is also through to the third round. He beat Thomas Machac in 3 sets, firing 19 aces. The 2024 finalist and Tokyo Olympic champion will next face French favourite Quentin Halys. Zverev is still bidding for his first major title. Virgil van Dijk will lead a Dutch club World Cup squad that includes 15 players from the English Premier League. The 34-year-old is the captain and defensive cornerstone for Liverpool, which has also midfielder Ryan Gravenberch and forward Cody Gakpo on the Netherlands roster. Reds teammate Jeremy Frimpong was among the notable omissions following an injury-plagued club campaign. Others making the roster from England's top flight include Jurrien Timber along with Nathan Aki and Thierry Reinders. Memphis Depay is the Dutch side's all-time leading scorer with 55 goals. This will be his third World Cup. The Netherlands has never won this event after falling in the finals in 1974 and 78 and 2010. Ronald Koeman has expressed confidence in their abilities.
We doen mee om te winnen.
Well, we participate to win, but I know quite well what reality is and what other countries can bring as well. So yes, nothing is impossible, and that's what we will go for. I am convinced that we can go far and that we have a team that is difficult to beat. But to win a number of times against a big country, well, that is still far away.
The Netherlands are in Group F, where they will face Japan, Sweden and Tunisia. And finally, the Attorneys General of two states in the US are probing FIFA's ticket pricing practices ahead of the World Cup, citing concerns over premium seat releases and cost hikes on more than 90 matches, which have left some fans feeling that they may have been misled. Mitch McCann reports.
MetLife Stadium in New Jersey will host 8 matches during the FIFA World Cup, including the final on the 19th of July. And in many cases, fans from across the world have paid thousands of dollars for a single ticket to watch the sport's showpiece event. On Wednesday, it was revealed that Attorney General Letitia James of New York and Attorney General Jennifer Davenport of New Jersey launched a fresh probe into how FIFA has been charging for tickets, and they say it's to ensure fans are not taken advantage of. The first concern relates to reports about seats fans purchased within a range of categories, where tickets were bought based on stadium maps only for new, more premium seating to be released within the same categories at a later date. Fans who originally bought tickets say they were then relegated to less favourable seats. Secondly, the Attorneys General are concerned by reports that between October 2025 and April 2026, FIFA raised the price of tickets for more than 90 of the 104 World Cup matches, with prices for 3 main ticket categories rising on average by 34%. The prices of match tickets for the World Cup have been generating headlines for months amid concerns over how much money fans are being asked to pay. Last week, New York Mayor Zohran Mamdani revealed the city will offer 1,000 tickets at just $50 due to how expensive they have become.
And yet, as we prepare to host the World Cup right outside of New York City, we know that ticket prices for this tournament have soared into the thousands of dollars. There are countless New Yorkers desperate to attend a World Cup match, but who simply cannot afford to go.
FIFA President Gianni Infantino has defended costs in recent weeks, saying that FIFA is applying market rates, and added that just because tickets are being resold at high prices does not mean that is what FIFA sold them for.
As a matter of fact, we have 20% of the group stage, 25% actually of the group stage match tickets who can be bought for less than $300. You cannot go to watch in the US a college game, not even speaking about a top professional game of a certain level, for less than $300. And this is the World Cup.
The Attorneys General say the investigation will examine whether and how FIFA's ticket release schedule, public statements and other conduct may have impacted these prices.
That was Mitch McCann reporting.
All right, thank you very much. That was Yang Guang with sports. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in culture and entertainment, gaming platforms are emerging as the new hub for social media.
The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
For years, social media has dominated screens in people's spare time. But now gaming is taking over as millions of people are ditching scrolling for virtual worlds, turning gaming platforms into the new social hangout. Mark Neo reports.
In 2025, U.S. users averaged around 30 minutes per day on apps like Instagram and Facebook. Compare that to users on video games like Fortnite, roughly 60 minutes, and Roblox, 168 minutes per day. And that's not just playing the game, but increasingly socializing with others within the games.
So you do have bands showing up, Billie Eilish coming and showing up and doing some sort of performance. You have like sort of K-pop demon hunters having some sort of like concert in, platforms like Roblox. It's not just playing games, but it's playing with friends, hanging out with friends.
DiPianco's company, Max Power Gaming, helps brands and developers grow and leverage Roblox's user-generated content platform. He says advertisers are now running full-screen video ads where players get rewards for watching them, or they can choose to advertise inside spaces virtually.
So there's integrations into existing games, and that's probably closer to this idea of like a product placement, right? It's sort of like, hey, brought to you by such and such brand came in here and, has a different space. So you might see some brand logos. You might see some video content from that brand.
Video games have always been sticky, meaning people spend a lot of time on them trying to improve their skills and attain rewards. But some psychologists say today's gaming is leading to an increasing amount of negative consequences among young people due to the greater level of immersion.
Basically, kids neglecting other areas of their life. We often, one telltale sign is issues around sleep. We see relationships start to suffer, in-person relationships. Physical activity goes down.
Esther Hardy is a gamer himself. He says some kids flourish through online gaming experiences, while for others it may hinder their development.
We don't want to just hammer in on the gaming and just say, reduce the gaming time and then that'll solve everything. The gaming oftentimes is a symptom of the problem. And it's fine to work on a symptom, but you really want to try to get to the root of the issue. That's the one thing I want to share to parents is that try to understand what your kid's experiencing on a broader level.
On a broader level, business-wise, the dollar amounts on user-generated gaming platforms are soaring. In a single year, Roblox paid out more than $1 billion to creators on its platform. Gaming expert DiBianco says companies from other industries are taking notice too, including such platforms like Netflix and even LinkedIn, which have recently added games in hopes of boosting engagement.
That was Mark Neal reporting. The 28th Shanghai International Film Festival is set to kick off on June 12th. The opening film is Afterpiece, directed by Keen T.K. Wong. On opening day, the historic Shanghai Grand Cinema will host a special event, a live red carpet broadcast followed by the film screening. After the movie, the cast and crew will join a Q&A with the audience, sharing behind-the-scenes stories. China's overseas short drama market is booming. As domestic competition heats up, Chinese companies are turning to AI-powered exports. Some companies said orders for AI-made short dramas from overseas platforms have jumped fivefold, with a 50-fold annual increase expected this year. An official figures show that about 120,000 micro-dramas debuted in the first quarter, with about 95% being AI productions. At 57 past the hour, checking the forecast before we go. And Beijing will be clear overnight, sunny tomorrow, the low 16, a high of 32 on Friday. Shanghai will be cloudy tonight and tomorrow, a low of 22 and a high of 29. Chongqing has a light rainfall in the forecast tonight and tomorrow, a low of 22 and a high of 27. Nanchang will be cloudy through tomorrow. Low is 25, it's up to 30 on Friday. Alaska will see a light rainfall tonight and tomorrow with a low of 5 and a high of 20. That's it for this edition of the Beijing Hour. Making news today, China has helped launch a global initiative for poverty alleviation, along with 53 other countries. And China is urging Japan to remember history and proceed with caution as Tokyo unveils plans for a National Intelligence Council. On behalf of the staff, Shane Bigham in the Chinese capital. Hoping you'll join us for our next edition of the Beijing Hour.
Find the Beijing Hour at precisely 6 p.m. Beijing time. We meet you on podcast and on air every weekday. The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
He can't live without the Yellow River in his eyes.
The Yellow River is so noble and elegant.
Both my grandpa and dad made a living from the river.
Would you like to move away from the Yellow River?
I don't think I will. I love it so much.
The Yellow River, the second longest river in China, is regarded as a shaping force in the history, economy and culture of northern China. Today, about 100 million people live within its water basin, making up nearly 9% of the country's population. How is climate change felt at its headwaters, and what are the locals doing to cope with it? What are the descendants of the boatmen doing? What has kept some people from leaving their home village by the river, and what has drawn others back? Could the fading fishing community revive in a time of digital transformation? From 2021 to 2024, our reporters visited the upper, middle and lower reaches of the Yellow River, talked to the herders, farmers, boatmen, fishermen and eco-activists who share a close bond with the river. and present their stories in pictures, podcasts, and videos, all in our 12-part series, The Yellow River Mosaic, available only on CGTN Radio